What happened next was either justifiable or just revenge.
Hello?
Привет, нахуй! Hey!
Thank you. What my friend said means, hello, dignified people. Can you believe that our Lord and Savior, Skip the Stalker, will begin his most likely fatal journey into the zone in little over 100 days? Or probably even less, depending on when you're watching this. Get this. You're watching this after the game releases, and I'm 100% right about these. And I come off as like the second prophet of the zone. Because the first one's already Mozi, Spartan Mozi. Spartan mozzarella. Or as a goofy fool who can't get anything right because I get everything right. Which is fitting, so you can't hate me for it. Before we get into 5 myths about Stalker 2 or misconception, or shall we call them mythconceptions? Before we get into those, I want to say thank you to the members of the CIA who decided to play soldier with me and filled in the pieces of the puzzle, which is funding the channel. We're funded by the CIA, boys and girls. Thank you so much for the members of the CIA. So, the 5th myth that I want to start with is that Stalker 2 has been in development hell. Well, it has been in development hell. And if you believe this, you just might be confusing development hell with literal hell. They're slightly different. Development hell is usually a result of mismanagement, legal issues, or financial situation, or all of the above. In the case of Stalker 2, its development troubles have come from a series of pretty disgraceful events completely outside of GSC's control. You may remember in 2022, in February of 2022, in the early days of the failed siege of Kiev by Russian forces, GSC moved to Prague with a whole bunch of equipment, a whole bunch of staff, but many also stayed home. So they were in a situation where that just takes a lot of time to put together. So you need a whole bunch of time to take this massive project and reorganize it. Not just that, but the folks who move to a whole new country need to find homes, they need to establish themselves into their new lifestyle, and that takes time. And the folks who stayed back at home, they've got problems of their own. They're surviving in a war zone, they're going to shelter during enemy attacks. They're dealing with very real, very difficult problems as well, power outages, the like. So you've got the studio is split and needs to reorganize, and that becomes a project in and of itself, and the people working on the project have massive problems to deal with as well. And that is why we've gotten the delays we've had. And that has nothing to do with the game. When it comes to the game itself, we do know that a lot of content was cut because it was probably creating dissonance with the new reality being faced. So, a whole language was removed, characters probably needed recasting, or some new lines needed re-recording because some modifications to the story had to be made, perhaps. And you smell that? Is that the server room on fire? The server room was on fire at one point. So, a game going through development hell would not survive what GSC Game World has gone through to give us Stalker 2. If anything, all the shit they've been through and their persistence and unwavering effort, as well as the guts, because it does take guts to delay the game over and over again, and the guts to delay the game, man, this is something that actually gives reassurance. The fact that they keep working on the game despite everything, when no one would have blamed them if they had thrown in the towel. It just goes to show that they want to deliver something special, and that they're dead set on doing it. One myth that is more relevant now than it was before is that Microsoft is Stalker 2's publisher because of recent events surrounding Xbox and Microsoft gaming. This has led to a lot of alarms being raised about Stalker 2 and GSC being in danger because of Microsoft's own situation. But this isn't something that you should worry about. Microsoft does not own GSC Game World, and Stalker 2 is actually, technically, an indie game. I know it's a strange comparison, but humor me here. Taylor Swift, yes, that Taylor Swift, she, a few years ago, ditched her record labels, and for a recent movie release, she totally ditched movie studios. And this is something that gave her a lot of creative freedom and just a lot of liberty when it comes to her own music. Don't even get me started with how that affected the movie industry and her just foregoing movie studios to release her movie and just bankrolling it herself. And all this liberty allowed her to make songs, as many songs as she wants per album, as long as she wants, to make her albums come with all sorts of extras, and her fans love her for it. So GSC Game World basically did the same thing when it comes to games. They released the original trilogy with 3 different publishers: THQ, Deep Silver, and I don't know. I think I need to boot the game. Bit Compressor Games? I don't know. I don't care either. Point being that GSC said, screw publishers, we're doing it ourselves, and no one is telling them what they should or shouldn't do regarding their creative vision. So Microsoft's relationship with STALKER 2 is purely a limited exclusivity deal for consoles. It encompasses day one availability on Game Pass, which is pretty customary for Xbox and Game Pass this generation. They've gotten a lot of indie games on Game Pass, and this is exactly what STALKER 2 is. It's yet another indie game going on Game Pass, and GSC's relationship to Microsoft is just very similar to other developers' relationship to Microsoft. Microsoft is helping them get their game on Game Pass in exchange for day one availability. One myth that is very strange is that people say that STALKER 2 will be like X game, as well as make complaints about Unreal Engine 5.
STALKER 2 is gonna be like Call of Duty.
No, STALKER 2 is gonna be linear like Metro. They did away with the open world. You can see it from the cinematic trailers.
STALKER 2 is gonna be just another generic game. It's being made on the Unreal Engine 5.
On first impression, these look like embarrassing takes, but you have to understand that these are coming from what's known in the Dunning-Kruger effect as the peak of ignorance. If you look at the scale, the very top, very confidently saying something without knowing much. But tap into the thought process of somebody saying this, and you kind of have to give them a little, you gotta give the devil his due, and put together that they're saying this because there is a trend where some studios are imitating well-known games. It's a genuine trend, and the people who say these things about STALKER 2 are just concerned that STALKER 2 will fall for that same trend. Be too cinematic or too linear in this instance, I think. But remember, the developers who fall for this are usually new, and they just likely want to crack at a formula that they really, really like as players. The other side of it is when it's a bigger studio and they're backed by a money-hungry publisher who just wants to tap into a certain trend and just want to put out something to cash in on it. And I think that's the concern because these don't really line up. Call of Duty lost its identity few years ago, and Metro opened up its linearity in the last game. So, and not only that, STALKER 2 is an indie project, remember? So you got to look at what the intent behind the myth is. But for those very reasons, and perhaps a million others, STALKER 2 is just very likely going to stick to its strengths. We have no good reason to believe that GSC Game World want STALKER 2 to be anything other than a Stalker game. Stalker has always had its standout strengths, and the people who make the games know what they are. I know sometimes as fans we want a bit of control because we want the things that we love about our games to stay. I think the risk only exists when the people making the games care less about them than the fans, or they lack the talent to deliver on their promise. We know that the former isn't the case with GSC, and on September 5th we'll see if it isn't the latter. And to address the point about Unreal Engine 5, it's just one that requires a bit more understanding of what a game engine does. They're a toolbox before anything else, and while they matter, how they're used is what matters most. The same tools and materials used to build bridges are also used to build houses. And Unreal Engine 5 is just a very modern and very well optimized, truly next-gen toolset that we haven't seen the best of yet. There's only a couple of games that I've played that have fully flexed Unreal Engine 5's muscles, and that's not really the case because RoboCop is one of them, and it doesn't use the facial animation technology, and Hellblade 2 is the other one, and while it uses every feature, it's technically not a game, it's more like a story-driven as a technical showpiece, because as a game, there's not much to play other than experiencing the story and the sensory aspect. So, if you compare using Unreal Engine 5 versus developing a whole new X-Ray engine, there's an obvious choice. I think a whole new X-Ray engine would mean a 2028 release. And we don't want that. We already know Unreal Engine 5 is amazing. The next myth, second to last that we'll talk about today, is that the English voice acting does not have localized accents. I can see where this one is coming from. It's not really a myth. It's not really a misconception. Because Korshunov, when he opens his mouth, is speaking like what sounds to me like a Canadian.
Maybe you can figure it out.
Figure it out, you know. This is a very common complaint in the comments. Yes, it is evident that some of the voice actors appear to be using their native English accents instead of producing, well, an acted accent, but that also means that some other characters, their actors, are using their native accent, which isn't a native English accent, like Dr. Dallin and Richter.
The zone has remained stable for years.
Here's your boat.
And the woman
Are you sure the perimeter surrounding the zone is really enough?
from the Enter the Zone trailer. There's women in the zone. Guys, that's so terrifying. That's the most terrifying thing. Women in the zone. I'm horrified. And like, what if there's female snorks in the zone? That's gonna be so scary. But to get back on track, Dr. Dallin, Richter, the lady in Enter the Zone, they were speaking in a non-native English accent. Yet their English was very well spoken and well pronounced and very easy to understand. And I think clarity is super important, and being able to be taken seriously also is. I've been involved in casting before, and usually go for actors who give you the best performance for your character's personality and also fit the creative intent of the director who leads the casting. I know that the case against native English accents usually comes from a place of concern towards immersion being compromised, but take a look at this and humor me.
Hey you, nature's failure. Either talk or get out of my hair.
We had goofy accents in the Legends of the Zone trilogy because the creative vision demanded it for those games, or at least it fit in those games, and it had great results. I love the voice acting in the original trilogy, but also keep in mind that the lower fidelity visuals were a bit more cartoony, and those goofy accents fit that, and that might not necessarily be the case with the higher fidelity, very real looking visuals in Stalker 2. The higher your fidelity, the more convincing your actors need to be, and I can tell you that incorrectly acted performances and accents as well break immersion for people far more often than just a good performance with a natural accent for the actor. And that goes as well for acted accents. Incorrectly acted accents break immersion for people who are familiar with them. Let's say Korshunov, his actor isn't Ukrainian and he tries to speak with a Ukrainian accent. Ukrainians are gonna notice. So just because we think an exotic accent sounds localized doesn't mean it actually is. And I'm sorry to break it to you, but nobody sounds like the bandits from the original trilogy. Nobody talks like that.
Start talking, buddy. I'm all ears, buddy. Well, hello, buddy.
So what does this all mean? It means that the creative vision for Stalker 2, or at least the trailers so far, have demanded authentic performances from their actors, and the actors that were chosen to bring their respective characters to life are doing that however best the directors see fit.
And if that's not enough for you, вивчайте українську мову або грайте в гру, читаючи субтитри, блядь, для додаткового занурення. So there is that option.
Thank you. He has a point though. So to wrap up with this one, I think this one's up to the directors. I've heard both natural English accents and learned English accents, so I just want the performances to be good, you know? Yeah. The last misconception is probably the juiciest, and it's that mods will make it good. Now, we're not exactly vanilla purists on this channel, but we're certainly not mod elitists either. And this myth pertains more to the original trilogy than Stalker 2 so far, but it infers that the games are average at best, and that the community, through unity and friendship, came together and made the games great. This is just not accurate. The modding scene is good, because the games are excellent. They serve as a strong foundation that many mods have expanded upon to create equally great experiences, and sometimes they make the experience better. And the modding community, as well as the games, they need each other for a game like Stalker to have such a long, rich life. The modding tools are what's important here for a good game to have its life extended. But if your foundation is poor, I don't know. I don't think a mod can fix a bad game. I think if there's a good game in there somewhere, mods can squeeze it out. But if the game is just fundamentally bad, I don't think you're gonna get that. Will that be the case with Stalker 2? Probably not. But we have to wait and see, right? I'm optimistic that it'll be a good game. But to break from that, if you ask me what my favorite Stalker experience is, it's Call of Pripyat with an FOV extension and a grass render distance extension mod. That's it. I've said that before. Like, to me, that is peak Stalker. And that's practically just vanilla enhanced. It's the most enjoyable way for me to play Stalker. And believe me when I say that I've played a lot of Stalker without mods, with mods, fully modded, partially modded. I've played a lot of Stalker. When I asked you guys if you've played the original trilogy, I do this every few months, these were the answers you gave me. And I believe that most people who say that mods will make it good fit into the third answer. You know, the same kind of people who say that they're more excited for Gamma 2 than for Stalker 2. They haven't even played the original games, and they're very vocal about it. But guys, I just really want to encourage you to play the original trilogy. If you find the visuals off-putting, just work through it. You'll overcome that, and you'll realize how good these games actually are. They do absorb you, and they're just they are masterfully made. In my recent video about how True Stalker isn't so great, I noticed that a lot of people who stood up for True Stalker sang its praises, but also compared it to Anomaly and tactical mods, which is fair when it comes to talking about True Stalker, but it also comes off as if the original games aren't worth talking about. And that is bothersome for me, which is the whole reason I came up with the hot chocolate analogy. We're just basically saying that the best Stalker mods build off the Stalker games, just like the best way to make hot chocolate is by making hot chocolate with good chocolate and good milk. You know, the core ingredients, the essential ingredients for hot chocolate are what you need to be good to make good hot chocolate. If you just toss in your mixture of spices, which is something that was commonly done in the old office I used to work at, that doesn't necessarily make your hot chocolate good. And a lot of people seem to think that spices give character, but where the character really comes from is the essentials. But that's pretty much it. Thank you for your viewership. I appreciate the time you take to watch me take the time to tell you things. Big thank you to the member of the CIA. We only have one. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. And that's it from me. I will make another video whenever I want to, but it'll be soon. And we'll be making a boatload of videos from here to September 5th. You can count on that. And after, oh man, we're just getting... Oh, I'm so excited about Stalker 2. You can see it. I'm all giddy. Cheers, boys and girls. I'll catch you next time.
Buddy?